The following program is brought to you by the Internet Broadcasting Organization. The use of any firearm without proper training in safety and firearm usage is extremely dangerous. It is highly recommended that anyone owning or using a firearm attend a certified firearms safety course and practice proper firearm procedures. The views and opinions expressed on the K-Gun Show are those of the individuals and does not reflect the views and opinions of the K-Gun Show, R&R Firearms, or Talkwad Studios.
Straight from Talkwad Studios in beautiful sunny Tampa, Florida, this is the K-Gun Show. The Second Amendment needs our voice. We bring you the latest information about all firearms while revisiting some of the true classics in the industry. We are NRA certified instructors, and as always, safety and education is our first priority. The K-Gun Show is brought to you by R&R Firearms.
We're filming here live in Tampa Bay, and we welcome you aboard. Just a few notes. My co-host will no longer be hosting the show with me. She has decided to seek out other opportunities. We wish her the best of luck in her future endeavors. But as the saying goes, the show must go on. As a reminder, we always like to remind everybody of the three basic NRA safety rules. 1, always keep your firearm pointed in a safe direction. 2, always keep the finger off the trigger until ready to shoot. And 3rd, always keep the gun unloaded until ready to use. If most people follow these simple 3 rules, most accidents will be avoided by just following these 3 safety NRA rules. Today's topic, I have a very special guest today. His name is Les Rayburn. He is a retired veterinarian vet, with 35 years of active duty in the Army. He has joined the Army when he was 18 in 1966. He was deployed to Vietnam 2 years later, and he retired with the rank of Chief Warrant Officer number 5 after 35 years of service. If you're wondering what a Chief Warrant Officer 5 is, it is the 5th and highest warrant officer rank in the United States Army. They are officially appointed by the Secretary of the Army. They are master-level experts of both the technical and tactical aspects of learning in the field. CW5s have extra leadership and representation responsibilities, as well as the typical warrant officer responsibilities. Responsibilities of a Chief Warrant Officer 5 require intricate technical abilities and experience. They help with leader development, mentorship, and advising warrant and branch officers. So they have a lot on their plate, and they work very hard to get that, and they keep on working once they have it. So we're going to take a quick break and hear from our sponsors, R&R Firearms, and we'll be back with Les.
R&R Firearms provides their customers with the time and education they need to make purchasing a firearm a safe and easy transaction. R&R Firearms also offers NRA training courses, including the training needed for your Florida Concealed Firearms license. Please stop by our offices at 1411 16th Street North in St. Petersburg, or visit our website at rrfirearms.com. Appointments are available to fit your busy schedule. Please call area code 727-822-7900. That's 727-822-7900.
And we're back live here in Tampa Bay, and here's my guest, Mr. Raymond. How you doing?
Thank you very much for having me, Jeremy.
Good. I'm glad you can make it. Do you have a far to travel today?
Not far, about 40 miles. I live in Dade City.
Okay. And you enjoy it out there?
Oh, great. I have about 19 acres. I butt up against Green Swamp.
Nice.
I have a firing range at my house. So
very nice.
An avid shooter, so it's nice to be able to shoot anytime I want to shoot.
Absolutely. And how long have you been here in Florida?
I was born and raised in Plant City.
Oh, okay. So I'm
a local boy.
You're a local boy.
Yeah.
Local boy of how many years now?
I'm an old man.
You're going to hold that one back. Okay. Sounds good. Well, if anybody's been watching our Facebook page the last couple of days, we posted this picture of Les back when he was in Vietnam. And Les, can you tell me a little bit about this picture?
That picture was taken in 1968. I was the XO of a Special Forces A Detachment in I Corps, Camp A-108 Minlong. And we were crossing a river in I Corps. And if you'll notice, the guy behind me is a Montagnard. I'm carrying a Car 15. It's collapsible stock. It looks like I'm doing a little profiling there. I'm doing way too much smiling. But my interpreter took that picture, Mr. New. He's a great guy. He's about 4 feet tall, but he's a great guy. We used to go out, and we'd go out on patrol, and there was either one American or two Americans, and we'd take 20 to 60 Vietnamese and Montagnards with us, and we'd go out and patrol in our area. And we would actively seek out the NVA or the Vietnamese, and we'd look for them. If we knew that there was a large contingent, or we had good intelligence, and we knew that there was a lot of bad guys in the area, sometimes we would take out a larger number of troops, sometimes up to say 200. And if we took out that many Vietnamese and Montagnards with us, and sometimes we would take out up to 3 Americans with us. And then we would do active patrol, and we'd break it down into two groups if we took out a large number. And that would be a full company. And in this particular patrol was about a 60-man patrol, and there was myself and one other American on this particular patrol.
60 men, but only 2 Americans?
Yeah, 2 Americans.
Okay. And how long, what was your average length of
we got 5 to 10 days.
Okay.
We were limited. We had very little logistic support. We didn't have a lot of helicopter support, so when you went out, what you carried with you was what you had.
For the 5 to 10 days, what you carried, what you ate and drank.
Yeah, what you had. If we went out for 10 days, sometimes we would get helicopter support. Somebody would bring us some extra food. But if you went out for 5 days, what you had on your back was what you lived with.
So you were heavy going in and light coming out.
Yeah, and we lived on C rations, and C rations came in metal cans.
Yep.
And you carried 5, 6, 7 days worth of rations on your back. So we walked out of camp with, say, 6, 7 days worth of rations, 12 quarts of water, several hundred rounds of ammunition, a rifle, a pistol, hand grenades, smoke grenades, a radio, extra batteries, our first aid kit, our IVs. Notice there's no helmet. We wore soft caps.
Okay.
It was weight, because we lived, and we
lived what you carried.
Lived with what we carried, and you walked out with 100, 110 pounds on your back, on your body.
And how much you come back with?
As little as possible.
Our lines are open if you want to talk to Mr. Rayborn. Our telephone number is 813-440-6570, or you can call the number on the screen, 440-6570. Yeah, so if you want to ask Mr. Rayborn a question, feel free to give us a call. And we have another picture here that we are on Facebook, and if we could throw that on the screen. And Mr. Rayborn, can you tell us about this picture?
We did a lot of civic action work in the villages around our camp. Our camp, all the SF camps were near villages. We encouraged our CIDG, our Civilian Defense Force, to bring their families into camp, and all of our bunkers were manned by CIDG, our indigenous forces, our Vietnamese and our Montagnards. But we did a lot of civic action work in the villages.
Okay.
And we would participate in school graduations. We would participate when we built a hospital. We did a lot of what would you call nation building, but we called it winning hearts and minds. Here, this was a graduation. We tried to show the Vietnamese that we were, quote, stronger than the VC. we also use these civic action projects as cover for intelligence operations. When we would go out with our medic, and we would take a medic with us. It'd be a couple of Americans and a medic, and we would take, say, 20, 30 soldiers of Vietnamese Montagnard troops with us, and we would go out and run what we call MedCap operations. And our medic would set up, and he would see the local villagers, and he would treat the local villagers for their medical problems. And after about the second visit or so, they would start giving us information on the VC. But we had to have a cover for them to be able to come to see an American. So
they don't get in trouble from the VC.
Right. So they would be treating the Vietnamese for their ailment. And if you don't realize what a true miracle drug penicillin actually is until you see penicillin work on someone who has never been subjected to an antibiotic in their entire life, and you see what drugs really do when you see them used on people that have never seen them before.
Well, they've never built up a tolerance, so
no tolerance whatsoever.
The medicine actually goes right to the
Go
cause
right to work, and it was just penicillin was actually a miracle drug when you use it in that environment. So we did a lot of civic action work. We participated. We rebuilt a school. We rebuilt a hospital. We bought stuff for the local villagers. I'm an ardent anti-communist. I hate communism. I saw what communism actually did in Vietnam. I watched the communists go in. I watched the communists kill school teachers, kill priests, for no other reason than they were anti-communist. So I know what communism does, and people don't understand what the true goal is, and until you actually see what they're capable of doing. Their little slogans sound good, but when you see what they actually are capable of doing, then you hate them. I mean, you literally hate them.
Right.
And I do. I make no bones about it.
Well, most Americans do.
Yeah, and I make no bones about my feelings about communism.
Now, were most of the Vietnamese villages favorable about you guys coming in and helping them out?
Absolutely. They loved for us to come in, and they were not happy when we left. They were not happy at all.
Because when you left, the VC came in because they would punish them because they were talking to you and being friendly with Americans. Yeah. It's tough times.
Absolutely.
So what have you been doing after retirement for 35 years?
Well, I did. I retired 4 times, and it took 4 times for it to take. I finally learned how to retire. I was a logistician. I got sick. I got Meniere's disease, and I could no longer fly. My second tour in Vietnam, I was a helicopter pilot.
Okay.
So my first tour in Vietnam was Special Forces,
yep.
And I was watching all these guys fly around, and I thought that was pretty cool. So I came back and went to flight school, and I went back to Vietnam as a helicopter pilot.
Good way to view the country.
And I thought that was a lot easier than carrying a 100-pound rucksack up and down mountains. And in some ways it was, in some ways it wasn't. But
and how were you in your second tour of Vietnam when you were a helicopter pilot?
How old?
Yeah.
Oh, I was an old man. I was all of 20. I think I was 23.
23.
Yeah, I'd gotten real old by then.
And how many years did you spend as a helicopter pilot in Vietnam?
Just 1 year as a helicopter pilot.
And how many years as the line guy?
I was a year in Vietnam as Special Forces, and a year in Vietnam.
So just 2 years you were on.
Yeah, 2 years in Vietnam.
In country.
And 2 years in country. So I went, and so I was flying Black Hawks at Fort Bragg when I got sick.
Okay.
And I had got Meniere's disease. I could no longer fly, and I really couldn't be an effective Special Forces soldier. I was going to go back and be Special Forces, and I really couldn't. So I became an ammunition guy, and which is a logistician. Mm-hmm. So when I retired, I billed myself as a logistician.
Okay.
So I did a lot of logistics work after I retired, and then. After I retired, I got really bored and went to Iraq when the second Iraq War started. I was still on active duty during the first Iraq War. So after I retired during the second Iraq War, I was bored and went to Iraq as a contractor. I really didn't take retiring very well.
No, it just sounds like it.
So
What difference did you see between the Iraq War and the Vietnam War?
all wars get easier.
Okay.
Second World War was easier than the first. Vietnam was easier than the second.
Easier because we've learned from our mistakes in the previous wars?
No,
or?
it's just easier. It's a technology. The vehicles are better. You don't go far away from base camp. There's water, the logistics, just the nature of war. When I say easier, don't get me wrong, and I don't want anybody to take this wrong. Combat's combat,
right.
And the guys that go out in the field in Afghanistan have it just as hard as the guy in the First World War or the Second World War or Korean War or Vietnam War.
Yeah, you're risking your life either way.
Correct. That part of combat, it will always be the same, but the other aspects of the war, it gets easier. The guys that are not physically engaged in the point of the spear.
Okay.
If you're not on the point of the spear, the war is much easier.
Gotcha.
But the guys at the point of the spear
is always going to have it.
Always going to be the same, whether you're in the First World War or Afghanistan.
But because of our electronics and equipment, we can be better intelligence further away.
I didn't have an iPad in Vietnam.
But you had one in Saudi Arabia.
I had a computer in Iraq.
In Iraq, okay.
That I could do email and talk, and I could call my wife when I was in Iraq. I couldn't do that in Vietnam, and I couldn't do email in Vietnam, and I couldn't talk to all my friends in Vietnam. So all of that stuff is easier. And the moving around the country and the way you ate and the way the logistics and just the way people are taken care of. Wars get easier. Imagine the guys in the trenches of the First World War, and then imagine the guys eating in a mess hall in Iraq. It's just worlds apart. Writing a letter in a trench in France.
On a piece of paper versus...
Correct. And opposed to the commercials you see on TV where the guy flips open his laptop and FaceTimes with his family. So that part. But the point of the spear never changes.
Correct. I would agree with that, 100%.
So wars get easier. But
on the back end.
Correct.
But in the front end, it's always going to be hard, and it's always a risk, and we're always going to have fatalities.
But fewer and fewer people are on the point of the spear because of technology.
Now, you mentioned a lot about in Vietnam, the local villages, and they're being very happy for us to be there. What about the villages in Iraq? Were they as
Absolutely.
friendly?
I spent a lot of time in Iraq, and I didn't see any hostility. And what I saw in Iraq, and I was in an area where it was very rural. I was not, my first year I was in a rural area. My second year I was in Fallujah, in a camp near Fallujah. And it was sort of two different areas. And it was not a rural area, so I didn't get to see a lot of local people. Now, my first tour I was in a camp where there was a lot of rural, and we did have an interface with a lot of the farmers and the local people. And they treated us extremely well, and they were always very nice to us. And they were very glad that we were there, and we brought stability to the country. The first time they had electricity, the first time they were going to get some plumbing, and the first time that they were going to get some of their infrastructure rebuilt.
So we got them out of the dark ages.
Absolutely, and that's a good term. I went to my daughter's high school, and the first thing I said, I want to tell you, they asked me to come talk about Iraq, and I said, well, you need to understand that there's no indoor or outdoor plumbing, and we'll go from there. And you have to think about that for a minute.
Oh, yeah. I know about indoor and outdoor plumbing because my cousin's grandparents had a cabin out in the middle of West Virginia, in the middle of 100 acres that had no running water and no electricity. And we used it as a hunting camp, and so that during the hunting week we had no running water and we had an outhouse. And
no, they didn't have any outdoor or indoor
or no outdoor either. Okay, that's
pushing it. It was so dry. It's so dry. Then it turns to dust so fast they couldn't understand why anybody would want to do anything other than let it turn to dust.
That fast.
Walk down a sidewalk and take a cup of water and throw now not in the big cities, I'm talking about around the rural areas.
Right.
Walk down a sidewalk, take a cup of water and throw it in front of you, and it evaporates before you can walk into it.
Wow, that's dry.
It's dry.
That's dry.
Extremely hot and extremely dry.
Well, thank you, Mr. Rayburn. Our lines are open if you want to call and ask Mr. Rayburn a question. Telephone number is 813-440-6570. I see you have a case over there. Do you have anything to show us?
Well, I brought in I understand you're a Glock guy.
Well, I do like my Glock. I do carry a Glock 19, 9mm.
Well, I'm not a Glock guy.
I see that.
I am a 1911 fanatic. And Mr. Browning designed 1911s.
Yeah.
And I brought in two examples of some of the finer 1911s. And this is Ed Brown 1911. And I'm going to make sure that you can see that it's
Yep. It is unloaded.
And there is no magazine in the
magazine,
chamber.
Correct.
It's one of the safest pistols in the world. It has two safeties. It has a safety
Yep.
here, and it has a grip safety.
Nice.
And this pistol will not fire unless the grip safety. So this pistol can be carried locked and cocked, and that's the way I carry my 1911s. I'm a big 1911 fan, and I just can't understand why anybody carry anything different.
Well, most people, whatever they're used to is what they like to carry, and you probably have had one. I mean, was it a 1911 that you were carrying as your sidearm in Vietnam?
Well, I did. I've been carrying these things since 1966, and I've sort of gotten used to them.
So yeah, so you're not going to touch anything else.
Well, I do have a H&K,
Okay.
P30L, and I do shoot CZs.
Okay.
But I always gravitate to 1911s. This is a 4-inch Cobra carry, which is a nice a pistol.
Yep.
And you can check the chamber.
Yep. I see.
And you see there's no magazine.
Correct.
And this is a 5-inch Ed Brown that I've sent back to the factory and had customized. And this is a 5-inch Special Forces model Ed Brown, 1911. And I'm going to tell you why I like 1911s. 1911s give you superb accuracy, superb reliability, and first round hit probability with a 1911 is extremely high. So
And your
it really
first shot is always your most accurate
right.
shot, and you got to make sure it counts.
That's right. I teach marksmanship, and here's what I tell people. It really doesn't matter what you carry. What's important is that you hit your target.
That's right.
6.22s in the chest is better than 7.45s in the wall.
I agree, 100%. Because those 45s in the wall are doing you no good.
That's right. Spend your money on ammunition and target practice.
That's right. Well, thank you, Mr. Rayburn. We're coming out of running out of time here, so we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to tell you what we have in store for next week, and we'll have some closing words with Mr. Rayburn.
R&R Firearms provides their customers with the time and education they need to make purchasing a firearm a safe and easy transaction. R&R Firearms also offers NRA training courses, including the training needed for your Florida Concealed Firearms license. Please stop by our offices at 1411 16th Street North in St. Petersburg, or visit our website at rrfirearms.com. Appointments are available to fit your busy schedule. Please call area code 727-822-7900. That's 727-822-7900.
And we're back. Next week on the K-Gun Show, we have Second Amendment attorney Noel Flasherson. He's going to talk to us about the Florida Stand Your Ground law. And here's a little quick video clip from attorney Noel that we should be queuing up right now.
Noel Flasherson, who has also worked with the NRA, is a big gun supporter, and Art Hayhoe with the Florida Coalition to Stop Gun Violence. Gentlemen, thank you for stopping by. Art, let me start with you. What do you think's wrong with this proposal right now in Florida?
Well, legality is not the issue. It's certainly legal. It's what people want. Do people want people running around with guns in the open and saying, look at me, I'm really something special, you know, right in your face? I don't think the public wants that.
Now, in other states, there are 43 states that have this law. Are they doing that now? Are they running around saying, look at me, or not?
Some of them do. I mean, I've heard stories where people come into Starbucks carrying guns and just irritates the people in there to no end. We don't need that. Okay,
Noel, 43 states do have similar laws on the books. Does this pass constitutional muster, in your opinion?
Without a doubt, I think the bill being proposed would pass constitutional muster. But even further, I don't think the states, any state, whether they allow open carry or do.
And we're back. And tune in to us next week at 8 o'clock on Wednesday to hear from our Second Amendment attorney. He's going to have some good rules and information to talk about on the Stand Your Ground law here in Florida. Mr. Rayburn, I appreciate you coming in to talk to us today. It was a great pleasure. I would like to give this knife to you for your appreciation. It is a TAC Force tactical knife with a spring open.
Cool.
Very handy knife. We appreciate you coming in, and that's for you.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And we're going to end today's show with a video from Sharon Lee Ruckle from Bradenton, Florida. She has a nice little video called "The Tribute, a Military Anthem."
Watching like eagles on high, defending the seas and the sky, protecting our shores and our land. May you always be held in God's hand. American soldier, I will stand up for you. Defender of country and the red, white, and blue. I can hear freedom ring. I sleep peaceful at night, knowing you're ready to stand up and fight. You're the strength of our nation, the pride of our land. American soldier, for you I will stand. American soldier, I will stand up for you. Defender of country and the red, white, and blue. I can hear freedom ring. I sleep peaceful at night, knowing you're ready to stand up and fight. You're the strength of our nation, the pride of our land. American soldier, for you I will stand. American soldier, I will stand up for you.
This program was brought to you by the Internet Broadcasting Organization, setting the standard for new media broadcasting.